Hello, and welcome to the City Brew Tours podcast, episode number 102. Welcome. Hi, I'm your host, Brian. Good to have you back for another episode. So happy that you joined us for last week's episode. Wonderful talk with Jess and Dale from Brewery Nix up there in Grand Rapids. And so happy to be joined for another discussion about the Grand Rapids beer scene and another wonderful brewery from that area. So happy to be joined by my co-host, Glenn. Glenn, how's it going?
Great to be back. Thanks, Brian. I'm really fascinated about these beers and some interesting things about the cans as well. But mostly, I'm just looking forward to tasting them. They look wonderful.
Yes,
very unique.
Very excited about the beers we're drinking tonight. Some interesting story about the brewery behind that, behind the beers that we're drinking, and some interesting discussion that we'll be getting into. But first of all, Glenn, the weather here has been chef's kiss for all of those just listening.
Yeah, I'd say we got there. I mean, we're close enough that we seem to mostly mirror each other's weather. Yeah, I mean, today was just perfect. It was almost 80 and felt like low 70s all day. It was we're getting a little bit of spring before being unceremoniously thrust into summer.
Yeah, I took advantage of the weather today myself. We went to the zoo with with the whole family and had a good time. It was the most excited I've ever seen my daughter at the zoo, literally screaming her head off at like every animal. Yeah, it was a really great day to get out there. Love my daughter, love my kid. Very, very tired of other kids right now.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. I work at the Statue of Liberty, and I like to. I'm certain. I'm sure I'd like your kid if I met her. And there are other kids that I enjoy, but I never say I don't like kids. I just say that I like the kids I like. But I'm glad your daughter had a good time, and I'm sure
Yes.
hopefully if I ever meet her at the Statue of Liberty, she's not screaming her head off quite as much, because a little of that goes a long way.
I would be the one screaming my head off. I like history. I'm a big history buff. I'd be excited to see Ellis Island, and I would be the one like, oh, let's go see that instead of her, and she would be bored. So she would probably be very happy to meet you and talk to somebody other than her weirdo nerd father.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So this past week, we've talked about what Glenn and I have been in, how we've been enjoying the weather, but this past week, terrible transition here, Jesus. This past week just wrapped up the 2023 Craft Brewers Conference, and with it came another year of World Beer Cup medals. This is a competition that is run every 2 years. It's an international beer competition and kind of seen as really the only parallel to the Great American Beer Festival, the GABF Awards. And we just wanted to take a moment here before we jump into our Grand Rapids themes here to give a shout out to some of our friends of the podcast that have took home some medals at the World Beer Cup this year. So first of all, shout out to Confluence Brewing Company for taking home two gold medals. Check out Confluence from our Des Moines episodes. Shout out to Ex Novo out of Corrales, New Mexico. They took home a bronze for the Vienna style lager. Big props to Jessup Farm Barrel House. They took home a gold for their wood and barrel aged beer category. Big shout out to Rheingeist Brewery, who took home a gold for their Cheetah. They were featured on our first episode, and maybe
I have heard of them. Yes,
maybe hearing from them soon. Not our first episode, but our first month, our first featured city, and maybe hearing from them soon. Yeah, kind of a well-known one there. Also shout out to Sockeye Brewing, one of our favorites from the Boise, Idaho area, for taking home a silver. Shout out to Uinta from Utah for taking home a silver medal. shout out to our friends Uda Pills over in the Twin Cities for taking home a silver, and a special huge shout out to our friends at Zipline Brewing Company over in Omaha, Nebraska. They took home a gold in the German alt beer style for their Copper Alt, which is a beer we featured on this show. So shout out to Laura for picking that beer to feature on this show. And huge props to all of those breweries that were featured on our lovely little podcast here that won medals. And shout out to everybody that took home medals at this year's World Beer Cup. That is a very cool event. And very happy to see some of my friends here in Pittsburgh take home medals too. Shout out to Cinderlands, Trace, and Necromancer. Good stuff. Great stuff.
Excellent. Yeah. Every time I see those list of beers, I like, okay, there's always some beers on here I want to get to know better, and then I don't want to because I have such a hard time finding them. It'll just give me too much FOMO.
Yeah, I was so happy. I left work on Sunday, closed up at the brewery, walked around the corner, and went to Cinderlands, and they actually had their Four Threads, which they took home a medal for, and got to enjoy that beer. And it was really cool to see my friend Evan, who's part of the brew team over there, take home a medal, and cool to see him up on stage accepting that award. And good cap off to a CBC that let's say had mixed reviews from a lot of people, but we won't get into that.
Oh, all right. That's for the after show.
Yeah. But into our Grand Rapids focused content,
yes.
We are featuring yet another brewery from the great city known as Furniture City up in Michigan. This week, it's Broadleaf Brewery and Spirits. We are featuring their Sour Lake. This version is the Guava, Passionfruit, and Orange. This is a sour ale with some really cool can art and some cool things, tactile things on the can.
Yes, I think that's called Braille. I think that's called Braille, Brian.
That's and I think that's called a tease, Glenn. So we can get into it later.
Oh,
Come
sorry,
on, man.
Sorry. I was like, what are these funny dots? I'm not really sure what this is. No, that was what I was just realizing before we started this, and I realized, like, wow, Braille. That's cool.
Oh, that's Braille. That is very cool, and we'll certainly talk about that this week.
Okay, so you're just realizing it too. I'm not a complete idiot.
No, I just realized it too as we were getting ready to start the show. Yeah. And we will also be featuring their Fruit Moon Blueberry Bonanza Wheat Ale with vanilla and lemon. Two very, let's just say, out there beers. Definitely creative thinking behind these beers. And let's wait no further. I'm sure all of our beer club subscribers at home have already cracked a beer, maybe cracked a couple. Shout out to all of you. I saw you checking in the chat there. Hope everybody's having a wonderful night. And we are
starting with the Guava Passionfruit Orange, correct?
Oh, no. I was going to start with the Fruit Moon.
Okay, so you introduce them in the opposite direction. That's like, and this one has, they both have Braille on them.
Yes, they both have Braille on them. For folks at home, if you aren't watching on YouTube, or if you aren't one of our beer club subscribers joining us while we record this,
we're starting with the Fruit Moon. Gotcha.
Starting with the Fruit Moon. Cans have amazing, striking art on them, and then also have Braille list on the front of the can. I'm guessing describing the brewery name and the beer name in there for folks that are vision impaired that would like to enjoy themselves a broadleaf, as we are about to do here. Cheers, Glenn.
Cheers.
Everybody's favorite part of the podcast is the dead air while we're sipping the beer and enjoying it.
It's my favorite part.
Yeah. Wow. This is good. So the stats on it is a wheat ale brewed with blueberries, lemon, and vanilla. So a lot going on in that kind of like bakery, confectioner's ingredients, whatever you want to call that sect of the weird brewery beer adjuncts. But wow, it's really coming through in here. I get
Yeah,
a
it's in.
lot of. Sorry, go ahead.
No, what are you getting?
I was the blueberries jumping out to me, and I think the blueberry can be a fruit that comes with some sourness to it in itself, and I feel like this is a fruit that gets complemented really well by vanilla, and I think it's done so well in this beer that vanilla smooths out those kind of, for lack of a better word, harsh edges around the taste of blueberry,
Well,
and
the
really
lemon
makes
brings
it
them out a little bit, I
comprehensive.
think.
That's
That's
yeah,
kind of interesting. Yeah, the vanilla's mellowing everything, but I feel like the lemon ups that tartness with the blueberry. And my favorite part is full disclosure, not a huge banana fan. I think a little banana goes a long way, and I'm finding the banana to be very subtle here, which I'm very glad about.
yeah. So I think it's I would guess because their tasting notes say, quote, a moon with a core of delicious wheat beer. Then we go into orbit with flavors of ripe blueberry, lush vanilla, and bold yeast derived banana. So I'm thinking they're fermenting this with, you know, Hefeweizen style strain, a Weiss beer strain, something that they're going to be able to push those banana esters in. And that's definitely something that we've talked about on this podcast that I'm not the biggest fan of. And I agree, Glenn. It's very subtle in there, and again just blends together to this really nice cohesive product. And yeah, to piggyback off what you said, that lemon citrus sour tartness pops in a different way than that blueberry tartness would in a beer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really, really good example of how a beer can come together while you're with layering different ingredients that may not seem to come to something cohesive in a beer when you put them on paper, but really works out in an instance like this.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm. Very, very delicious. So Broadleaf Brewery and Spirits was founded in 2019. They are located in Kentwood, Michigan. They have a second location in West Side, Grand Rapids, that just opened last year in 2022. So they started out in Kentwood and kind of built a following through the rugged years of beer sales through the COVID pandemic, which I don't know, Glenn, if you heard last week, they announced it's over. It's
Oh,
over.
good. It's completely over then. So
Yeah.
we don't really need to. Don't bother checking the numbers. It's over.
We can officially say, and I don't know what we can officially say, but they did the press release that it's officially over. But anyways,
If I mean, if that's true, that would actually be a wonderful birthday present for me because that happened on my birthday.
they
Yeah.
did it for you, Glenn.
Well, you know how that is. Like anything happens on your birthday, you notice it is like, oh, I was looking forward to that day, and oh, that's a thing that people will now associate that day with.
Yeah.
It's like when you turn 50. People always like to celebrate things that are 50 years old. So you have like your 50th birthday, the entire year, you find out all the other things that are the same age as you. So and so just turned 50, like, oh, I'm the same age as that. Or if it came like actually, oh, I'm slightly older than that. That's interesting. Anyway,
This
but
album that
yes,
I still feel like is a new release is 50 years old. Yeah. Uh, exactly.
well, music is timeless, most of it anyway.
Yeah.
The best music is.
So Broadleaf opened in 2020 in 2019, kind of grew through the pandemic with direct to consumer options and just existing in a world that is not what we're typically used to in craft beer and the growth that typically happens with a small craft brewery, as we've talked about on the show. Um, they opened their West Side location last year, which gave them a real foothold in, kind of a city center or central area hub of Grand Rapids, and has allowed them to connect with the Grand Rapids community, where before maybe they were connecting a little bit further out because of the weird marketing reach that the pandemic had with a lot of different products and small breweries. Funny enough, Broadleaf was actually expanded from our friends over at Brewery Vivant as a way to brew styles that didn't fit with that traditional theme over at Brewery Vivant. They're very focused on the Belgian styles and really traditionally brewed beers. And obviously tonight we don't have what you would call traditional beers. Glenn, thoughts on that? Like when
Yeah, no,
breweries.
I was just thinking about other breweries that do versions of that. One that immediately comes to mind is Jack's Abbey in Springdale.
Rest in
Springdale
peace.
temporarily RIP. Well, they have
Yeah.
said that Jack's Abbey is still in business and they still reserve the
Yes.
right to bring
Yes.
it back.
Yeah.
The other one was the one you had in Chicago, Un Ane.
Yeah. And Hubbard's Cave. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
because I
good.
think similarly thing with it, I didn't even for the longest time since Hubbard's Cave was the only one I'd heard of. I thought they were first, but I guess Un Ane was first. But yeah,
Yeah.
similar to kind of thing. And then a lot of places will just have like I think Two Roads has they have some kind of experimental brand. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head because you really want me to bring something up and have the real information. I'm sorry, I don't. But that's always my intention when I do that. Like, oh yeah, that thing is called, what do you, I don't know.
What do
But
you say? Yeah, I like this move from breweries. I think something that doesn't get talked about a lot in craft beer, it doesn't get talked about enough in craft beer, is the role of marketing and finding a way to connect your beers with the customers who are looking for what your beers offer. There's,
yeah,
especially nowadays, there's so many breweries, there's so many options for everybody. They can go out and find whatever style they want with whatever ingredients they want, and it's probably brewed by a brewery that they could drive to within a reasonable trip.
yeah.
So finding a way to connect with your customers really can give you the edge. I sound like a guy that's talking at the beginning of marketing here, but so much of beer is revolved around, okay, make good beer, make good beer, make good beer, have a good taproom experience. But how does that brand, how does your can art, how does your beer names, how does the feel of your brewery connect with your customers? And if you build this brand up to be one very specific thing, especially something like Brewery Vivant, where it's traditional Belgian, very Belgian focused, European focused styles, and you drum up this thing inside of an old church, and it's really reflective of a particular look and branding that you've built. But you want to do other things, you want to give yourself room to grow, you want to give in to those creative outlets that are itching you in different directions. I think launching a different brand, putting it under another name and getting it out there, and you know, doing the things that you wanted to do that really didn't fit with the other brand, I think is a great way for breweries to definitely freshen up the feel of what they're doing on the back end, but also maybe connect with a different clientele and a different customer base, and really find those people that are going to connect with those new beers or new brands.
Yeah, well, we do have an answer. The Two Roads place is called Area 2 Experimental Brewing. I
Yeah, they do all
thank
their
you, Jonathan,
sours
for
and
letting
stuff
us
good
know
there.
about that. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that because some breweries, what they'll do is they'll keep it all the same name. But I was actually interviewing someone from a brewery a few weeks ago. And I said, how do you find that right balance of giving the people what they want, giving all of their everything they expect from your brand, but at the same time still have fun and have experiments and do creative things. And as we're seeing, some companies decide to do that by starting an entirely new label.
Yeah, I think it's a good business move, and I think the more we can see beer focused people bring in the successful aspects of business and marketing in a way that's still respective of the vastly diverse and nuanced brands that they've built, I think it's going to help them grow even more, and especially breweries that are entering distribution and trying to expand outside of their local city, their local neighborhood. um Another cool thing about Broadleaf, they we were talking about awards later with the world, or we were talking about, geez, cut.
The World Cup thing,
We were
the beer
talking about
cup.
awards earlier. We were talking about the World Beer Cup earlier.
Yes.
And Broadleaf also produce spirits. They have won awards for their 9 botanical gin. And if I want to go out with another hot take today, gin, most underrated spirit, best cocktail spirit too. And there's a lot that can go into making a nuanced, subtle, flavorful gin, similar to the way that, a lot can go into making subtle, nuanced, flavorful beers like we're enjoying tonight.
I've never been fully convinced of what you said about gin, but I respect the opinion before its classic style. No, I do not eschew gin, but I also rarely seek it out. But also even the thing that replaced it, vodka. I much prefer the whiskey spirits.
Yeah, I mean, I say that, but I went to a cocktail bar last week after work, and I ordered a beer. So,
There you go.
I'll have my hot takes about gin, but I'll still be like, yeah. And what are your beer options? I'll take one of those, please.
As far as like classic versus what has become traditional, though, I definitely can sometimes. I appreciate why rye is probably better for a Manhattan than bourbon. And it's similar, like it's because it seems like bourbon has taken over for Manhattans the same way that vodka has taken over martinis, even though neither one of those rye and gin are the traditional ones.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, gin martini all the way, gin and tonic. But this is a beer podcast, so why don't we say we open another?
Yeah, but we are talking about a company that makes spirits, so it's not entirely out of school, so to speak. But yeah, let's try the other one here. See it.
Oh, hi. I am holding this far away from me as I open it. I can smell the fruit. Just
oh yeah, it's like tangerine almost. It may not be tangerine, but
out of this.
Okay, it's not tangerine, but it smelled like tangerine to me.
Yeah, the tropical fruit. I think it's a combination of the passion fruit and the orange. And oh yeah,
wow.
Oh yeah, you can get that hard to describe character that comes from guava and passion fruit. But I've heard it described as bitter. It doesn't taste bitter to me. It's kind of just funky guava passion fruit flavor.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it smells like fruit juice. It smells like straight fruit. It smells like Minute Maid tropical punch. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that is exceptional.
Yeah, it's I often will hear like people talk about either pro or con, talk about they long for the days that a beer tastes like beer. This does not taste as much like beer as most beers, but I think it's quite remarkable.
Look, Glenn, I'll be completely honest here. I have these two beers we're featuring tonight, and I have my beer that I was drinking when I was getting set up for the show here, and that's a light lager, and that's what I'm going to drink most of the time. But I will always love to enjoy beers like this.
Me too.
Again, passion fruit and guava can be so overwhelming ingredients, and it just blends so well into this beer. The acidity, I think, tames and tempers down that guava and passion fruit, and so does the orange juice. Orange? Yeah. I think it's just orange, not orange juice.
It is orange, yes, orange. Guava, passion fruit, and orange.
It's tropical. It's slightly sour tropical fruit punch. Wow. So Glenn, do you know much about the trio of passion fruit, orange, and guava, or as it's often referred to as hog?
This is everything you have just said is new to me. I mean, I've heard of the fruits. I grew up with oranges, less so with. I don't even know if I know what a passion fruit or a guava actually looks like outside of the post juiced phase of it. So this is the night for me to learn about things.
Guavas are they're pretty normal fruit looking. They look like almost like a if a pear had the skin of an avocado, and like if a pear had the skin of an avocado, that's what the outside of a guava looks like.
And it's shaped like a pear?
Kinda.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in that like appley pear realm in terms of their shape. Their inside is crazy pink color,
Yeah.
but a passion fruit looks like a fruit, and the flower that grows on the plant, they both look like a fruit out of HR Geiger or like Alien. Um,
Oh, okay.
it looks otherworldly. It looks foreign to us. It is a crazy looking fruit. Folks at home, if you've never seen one, Google it, go to the Wikipedia page, pull it up. It insane what it looks like. But Pog, or Passion Orange Guava, is a tropical juice drink that originated out of Hawaii. Back in the 70s, it was made by a dairy company that it was called. I'm gonna butcher this one. Um, Haleakala, Haleakala. Sorry, I'm sorry. It was a dairy company located in Maui, Hawaii, that they did, dairy stuff, milk, cream, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But then they also did this passion fruit, orange, and guava fruit juice. And people really, really liked that juice. But what they also liked was the caps from the milk that this company also produced. And they played this game with these milk caps. It was something that originated long before um, Hog, the drink, came around, but eventually this dairy that was known for the Pog juice and also known for their glass bottled milk discontinued their glass bottled milk, and the caps that they used to seal those glass bottled milk were used for that game, that milk cap game. People, kids mainly, were upset by this. They couldn't play their little milk cap game anymore. um the company said, fine, we're gonna make the cardboard milk caps again, and we're gonna print them, and we're gonna put them out so people can play this game. But we're not gonna put milk on them, because what's the point in that? Let's advertise for this drink that we're making. Let's get it out there. Let's get the word out there about this drink that we're making, this passion orange guava fruit juice
Wow.
that we're making. So on those caps, they put the letters POG, POG. Those caps would then become known as POG caps. And because of a teacher in the early 1990s, those POG caps got a revolution. And Glenn, you're a little older than me, but we're similar age, similar generations. Podcasts made a big return in the 1990s, especially here in America. And I was an avid collector of podcasts. My mom could probably lament all the money that she spent on those stupid caps for me. I don't think I played a single game of Pog, but I remember collecting the stupid caps, and I'm sure some other people do at home. And I was fascinated to find out that all originated from this passion fruit orange guava drink in Hawaii.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I've definitely heard of the Pogs. I guess I think I've been clear about my age. I was in my 20s in the 90s, so
Okay.
Pogs weren't really part of my culture then, but I definitely, they were ubiquitous enough in some aspect of society that I definitely heard of them. So it's nice to get the full story from you tonight.
I it blew my mind, because I started to look into, like, of course my brain went to the word association. I was like, Pog the drink, Pog caps, that's funny. And then like started reading into it, and I wanted to kind of get into the background of passion fruit, orange, and guava, this trinity of fruits that I kind of have always associated with Hawaii. And I wanted to get into the background of it. And it turns out it's completely linked with the thing that I just made this free
That's funny.
association with. And that's awesome.
We got some
What
people in the chat who are talking about how this it makes them think of Smarties. But for me, it almost tastes like Skittles, like
the
liquid
mix.
Skittles. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But not the regular Skittles,
The
the
tropical
special
Skittles.
pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember what color that is. The special pack. One other fun fact that I found out about the Pog drink, um, in its later days, and this might be true now still, the Pog drink had a mascot on its carton or its whatever, its bottle. And it was known as the Poglodite.
The
And
Poglodite.
it says, quote, Poglodites are fuzzy yellow creatures who are often depicted with surfboards. The side of the juice carton describes them as the creatures from the magical village that makes Pog juice. So thank you to the Poglodites for giving Broadleaf the inspiration for this wonderful, wonderful beer.
Brian, of course, my brain goes. I'm now very disappointed that Trogs beer never had that. They never had the Trogs should have a mascot called the Troglodyte. But
Well,
I don't know.
looks like I'm gonna have to drive out to Hershey and tell the Trogs brothers that they've been doing it all wrong.
Yeah, no, just not them doing it all wrong. Just they could make some improvements.
I mean, it's a big miss. Like,
yeah, I mean that would be like the official name of the Mad Elf, Troglodyte the Mad Elf.
Glenn, I think you need to stop talking right now. I think you need to send them an email. I think you need, well, first of all, I think you need to contact a lawyer and,
well,
and copyright that idea.
I will. I mean, I'll finish up the show, but yeah,
and then reach out to the Trogs
come on,
folks.
Troglodyte the Mad Elf. What more could you want? Hey, kids, it's me, Troglodyte, the Mad Elf. Don't drink beer because I'm talking to kids.
I'm only 20% joking anymore. This is a phenomenal idea. Why don't they do that? Why? I'm gonna lose my mind. The Trogs, the Trogs local distributor, wholesalers right down the street from me here. I'll go and voice my opinion in person. You go through the proper legal channels and try to get credit for this one.
It's almost as good as there was a San Diego brewery I went to once that had a beer called Unfrozen Caveman Lager, which kind of fits with the theme, doesn't it?
Does
it? We're talking about troglodytes.
Is that what a troglodyte is? Is it like a caveman? I've always thought of it as like an insult to a person of lesser intelligence.
Well, it's like calling them a Neanderthal.
Yeah, I guess so. Cool.
I think it's in the same thing. I'm sure we'll hear from the chat if I'm totally off base. But yeah, no, I don't think someone just invented the name to call someone to be primitive. I think it comes from a primitive man.
Yeah, it probably has some origins in higher thought rather than just insults.
And I guess within all of that, a Luddite is more evolved than a troglodyte, even though by most of our standards, they're rather old-fashioned as well.
Yeah, but a Luddite is also a technical term, right? That's like someone that doesn't use modern.
They're very analog
advancements. Yeah. Okay. We're
whereas a troglodyte or a Neanderthal doesn't even know how to read, let alone say like, oh, I prefer paper media. I prefer physical media to the screens.
Shout out to Matt in the chat that said, I think it's called Encino Man.
No, it's not. I'm referring to the Phil Hartman Saturday Night Live character, Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. However, the person at the brewery thought it was from Encino Man as well, and I had to school him on that. Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer. Are we going to get sued? Is that copyrighted music?
No, it's we're talking about it in the context of a greater discussion and putting our own artistic spin on it, and I think that would be fair use.
Although it's funny that now we're bringing this all the way back to our discussion last, I think it was May, when we were talking about the brewery that had the Brendan Fraser picture on the wall, and he's now an Oscar winner. Yes, so that's what being mentioned on our show does for people's careers.
Yeah, it really does. Glad we could help with our friends with the help of our friends at Modest, who, shout out to them. They just made the news today with some crazy a story that they released a beer specialty seltzer RTD. I don't even know what it is. Canned cocktail with Will Sasso of Funny Man fame. And
See, I only think of him as what is Funny Man. I only think of Mad TV. I
I
know he's
was
been in other things, but yeah.
I was racking my very empty brain for Mad TV, and I just decided to call him a Funny Man.
Oh, you were. I thought maybe there was a very
Oh
obscure like '90s teen comedy called Funny Man that he was the star of.
no, but
Everyone would, until everyone would say, "Okay, impress us, Funny Man."
no, I'm
Like,
going.
I always hate having to be the funny man, and yet he. I don't know. We're writing a whole Will Sasso vehicle now.
Yeah, well, yeah. Congrats to Modest and Will Sasso on their ridiculous beer that they released today and sold out of within minutes. But yeah, congrats to us for resurging Brendan Fraser's career. Good for
Yes,
him.
it's entirely us. We did it.
Yeah, we did it. Yeah, that's I think that's a good note to close on. Pat ourselves on the back for
Yes,
helping
you're well,
Brendan Fraser
and
there.
you're welcome, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't matter
anytime.
that you didn't thank us at the Oscars. We know
Anytime,
you were
bud.
thinking of us. Yeah.
Yeah, anytime. We got you. We got you, man. I watched The Mummy like a ton growing up for some unknown reason.
Because
But
it was
anyways,
probably on your whatever cable package your parents
TNT
had.
constantly. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So thank you so much to our feature brewery this week, Broadleaf. If you want to follow along with their journey or check out either of their locations, you can follow them on Instagram at Broadleaf Westside or Broadleaf Kentwood. Kentwood's the original location. Westside's the expansion location. But either way, check out both of those. If you're ever in Grand Rapids or in that area of Michigan, they have different food menus at each place is, slightly different cocktail menus at each place is, different beers. Definitely check them out. Really cool tap room bar experience at both of those locations. Also, thanks to Broadleaf for giving us beers for the show tonight, as well as for our beer club. You should head over to shop.citybrewtours.com to explore subscription options, join the beer club, and get access to the special perks that can only get offered by America's oldest craft beer educationally focused tour company. Help support the show too. And then, of course, obviously, you get great beers like these shipped to you on a monthly basis. Next week, we'll have a great episode for everyone. We're really excited because, as we've mentioned, Brewery Vivant and Broadleaf are sister brands. They're expansions of each other, and we will be welcoming the founder of both of those breweries to talk about everything Brewery Vivant and Broadleaf, and we're going to talk about the Braille on the cans.
Well, there was so many questions for him. Yeah.
Yes, and you know what? The guy also founded New Holland, which was the brewery that made the Poet, which is the first oatmeal stout that I think I ever had. So I'm going to have so many questions, and I'm really
Dragon's
excited.
milk for me. It's all Dragon's milk. The Dragon's milk is like one of my favorite beers of all time.
Yeah, and they also made that little beer, that little imperial stout that a lot of people have heard of called Dragon's Milk too. So we got a lot to talk about with our guests next week. We'll hope you will join us then. But until then, shout out to our beer club subscribers. Stay safe, be kind, and support your local breweries. Cheers.
Cheers.
Woo.